Help wanted. Go to any shopping center in Hawaii and you will no doubt see the signs hanging in storefront windows. As local businesses recover from the economic effects of COVID-19, they're dealing with a record number of vacant positions and a shortage of workers to fill them. Join our live discussion as we talk about the challenges facing Hawaii business owners during COVID-19. Tonight's live broadcast and live stream of insights on PBS Hawaii start now.
Aloha, and welcome to Insights on PBS Hawaii. I'm Olena Hugh. Across America, employers are having a difficult time finding workers, and Hawaii in particular has been drastically affected by the labor shortage. While the national unemployment rate is 6%, here in Hawaii, unemployment hovers around 9%. As of May 2021, nearly 80% of Hawaii's firms are struggling to find candidates to fill their open positions. 85% have at least one opening, 65% have between 1 and 10 openings, and 30% have 11 or more openings. On September 4, 4 federally funded programs to help those without jobs expired, and tens of thousands of people lost benefits. Will businesses see an increase in applicants now that unemployment benefits have tightened? Or will the recent spike in COVID cases complicate the employment challenges? We look forward to your participation in tonight's show. You can email or call in your questions, and you'll find a live stream of this program at pbshawaii.org and the PBS Hawaii Facebook page. Now on to our guests. Sherry Menor McNamara was appointed the president and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce Hawaii in 2013. She is the first woman, first person of Asian descent, and the youngest president and CEO in the organization's 170-year history. Sherry was born in Japan and raised in Hilo, where she graduated from Waiakea High School. Prior to her appointment, Sherry has worked with ESPN, the Sony Corporation, the Hawaii State Legislature, and U.S. Senator Daniel Akaka. Now, along with his wife of 24 years, Marion, Don Murphy is the owner of the iconic Irish pub Murphy's Bar and Grill in Chinatown in Honolulu. Don is heavily involved in the community, donating millions of dollars through his charitable fundraisers. Don was inducted into the University of Hawaii Athletics Hall of Fame for his work supporting UH athletics. Nate Hicks is the director of Living Wage Hawaii, a local advocacy group focused on ensuring all workers are paid a living wage. Nate is a former teacher at Castle High School in Kaneohe in Windward, Oahu, and is currently working toward creating a higher living standard for all of Hawaii's residents. And joining us via Zoom is Shani Bryant. Shani is a manager at Altress, overseeing all facets of recruitment, placement, customer service, billing, and training for the Honolulu and Aiea industrial staffing teams. A 30-year veteran of the employment industry, Shani donates much of her time helping students learn resume writing, interviewing, and job searching skills. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And my first question is going to be actually Sherry, we want to talk a little bit about a study that you held in May and also most recently in July. What can you tell me about the numbers that you saw when it comes to employment and businesses?
Sure. Thank you, Lena, for that question. So, back in May, we were hearing a lot about businesses not being able to find workers. And so we decided to survey our membership across the state as to how prevalent this issue was, and sure enough, more than 85% said they had a workforce shortage. And it ranged from the size of business and different industries, as well as high-paying jobs as well. Fast forward to July, the percentage didn't come down significantly. It was just wavering around that percentage level. So you can see it's still a challenge, and now with these new mandates, it will further force many businesses to see what they can do to ensure that the workforce shortage in their business will not get worse.
Yeah, and so in that survey, you did find that 86% of businesses were struggling to find workers in May, and then you were finding that it was similar in July as well.
Correct. So there was not significant change there.
And why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think there's a few reasons that contribute to that. One, some employees are not comfortable returning to work yet, and another is some employees just decided that they didn't want to work in that industry and find other opportunities and retrain for these opportunities. And 3, childcare. As you know, that many stay home, and now that students are able to go back to school, but yet at that time, childcare was an issue. There's many contributing factors, and so that's why I think during the summer month, the percentage has not gone down significantly.
Thank you, Sherry. And Don, moving over to you with a restaurant and a bar, we've been hearing a lot of people saying that they're having a hard time getting people to just show up for work now.
Yeah, in the past few months, we needed back of the house kitchen help, and I hired 2 or 3 guys that just didn't show up for work. Came in, interviewed, good interviews, great, we'll see you tomorrow. Didn't show. And I've heard that from several other guys that I know in the industry.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. It's I guess it's a culmination of a lot of things. They just got used to not working, and then decided to go get a job, and then maybe they got cold feet, and I don't know. It's just crazy.
And, obviously with COVID numbers going up and going down, do you see a direct impact when the numbers do go up in terms of business?
Oh, yeah. We've, I was 3 or 4 weeks ago, we'd had one of the best weeks we'd had in years. And I thought, boy, this is great. This is really turning around. And then the numbers, when the numbers really started to spike, and boy, the business just plummeted. And I've heard that from a lot of the guys that I talked to in the industry.
And Shani, talking a little bit about how you're helping people find jobs, right? And you're also helping employers find workers. What are you seeing currently?
Yeah, well, I've done this for 30 years, and this is the last year and a half has been probably, the hardest struggle. I think what we're seeing is we're not seeing the normal pockets of people that are looking for work. So normally you would have the summer hires, and that's where the restaurant industry picks up all of their summer hires. You didn't really have that because you didn't have college kids out of school because they were out of school and already working these part-time jobs. You also didn't have the pool of people that are looking for a career change. So they have a job, but they're looking for something different. Those people, I think, hunkered down. They just kind of said, you know what, we don't know what's happening in our community with COVID. I don't want to look for a different job right now. I'm just going to stay hunkered down where I'm at. You had a lot of issues with childcare, and it's not so much the school shutting down, it's someone's sick and my child has to stay home for 4 days, and who's going to watch them, and should I start a new job now or should I just wait? So you have all these different pockets of people that we used to have access to that we just don't right now. So businesses are having to get really creative on how to attract, how to maintain, how to not lose any of their current employees, and that's what we're trying to just help them with.
Thank you. And Nate, what are you seeing, as far as our people being affected by COVID-19, and how is that affecting those that you're trying to help?
Yeah, it's a big struggle, especially for, workers on the lower end who, are showing up to work, risking getting COVID potentially, but then also having to go home and maybe not making enough to provide for their family or provide for themselves. And so it's really difficult for them when they don't have all of the resources to protect themselves and make ends meet for themselves.
Would you say that they're able to make ends meet on minimum wage?
Yeah, that's definitely not the case, right? The cost of living, as we all know, is very high here. And with the minimum wage at $10.10 an hour, that's about $21,000 for a full-time worker. It's just not enough, right? The state says just a single person needs about $35,000 annually just to survive, pay rent, buy food. This is, working full-time. And so it's not even close. A huge portion of the population, full-time workers, over a fourth of them make less than what the state says they need.
Wow. And how are you able to assist people?
Our goal is definitely to try to, push the legislature to raise that minimum wage, just like Democratic states around the nation have been doing, just like President Biden has been advocating for. That's where our efforts are focused in trying to make sure that Hawaii joins this large swath of the population to raise the minimum wage.
And Sherry, how do you think businesses will be affected by the recent announcement from President Biden today?
Well, with the recent announcement of employers over 100 employees implementing the mandate, vaccinations or testing, again, it's another layer of challenges in an otherwise challenging environment for businesses. And there's still a lot of questions. How do you implement that? What does that look like? When do you give your employee time off to get that vaccination rate, et cetera? And all the tests that employees do take will have to be covered by businesses. And if it's done on a weekly basis, you can imagine it just adds up. And so there is still a lot of questions out there. There is no effective date yet. I think the details are still being worked out. But the Safe Access program starts on Monday. And so I'm sure Don can talk more about it and how he's going to do it in his workplace. But it will pose some challenges because we just don't know. And as you mentioned, this is something that no one expected. We thought, like you said, in July, a light at the end of the tunnel, and Delta came in, and now it's disrupted the operations of many businesses.
And Don, how are you prepping for September 13th, the Safe Access program? And
I'm trying to figure it out first, but no, we're trying to set up a couple of different systems of where we can track everybody that comes in, and so that we know when they come in if they've been vaccinated before. On the bar end, it'll be a lot easier because we get so many regulars, and probably 80% of the people that come in are there all the time. The front of the house is going to be different, where it's people coming in for dinner and everything, but fortunately for us, we've got a pretty good percentage of regulars, so we're just going to try to set it up and do the best we can. It's going to be one of those things that this has all been, we learn something every day, and you're going to stumble through it.
everyone's learning to adapt and
Yeah.
pivot each and every
Pivot.
day, pretty much. All right, well, we are taking viewer questions, and we have one from Marcus in Makiki. And you can send us your question via email, or you can also give us a call. He asks, will employers hire someone if they are not vaccinated? And so maybe for both of you, what are your thoughts?
I would not know. All of our people are vaccinated, and I wouldn't, because they're going to mandate it where they got to go through it, and it's just too big of a risk and a hassle. And the safety of the employees that I have, they've been working for me for well over 20 years. That's the most important thing to me.
And Sherry, have you encountered that as well, where employers are asking if they have to?
When we did our survey, this was in August, I believe, we asked our employers, are you going to mandate vaccinations in the workplace? At that time, 56% said they were not planning to because, one, most of their employees were vaccinated already, two, more of a wait-and-see approach. And so I think as more businesses do it, it will gain momentum, and implementation of these programs, mandating employees as well as patrons, we will see a shift. So I'm not sure. I think because the trend is directing in that way, whether or not businesses will still hire those who are not vaccinated and do not want to get vaccinated. But we'll see, because, again, there's a workforce shortage as well. So what will happen? But ultimately, as Don mentioned, we need to look at the health and safety of the employees as well as their customers.
And I think it also calls into question the exemptions that some people are seeking and whether or not that's valid, But Shani, also, are you getting that question too about employers having to vaccinate or having
Sure.
employees that are vaccinated?
Sure, and I will say in the last 3 weeks, we've seen every day we have more clients that call and say, we've implemented this new policy. However, we're only about 50%. I mean, it's only about 50% of our clients, and those are businesses all over, the islands that are making it mandatory. So there are some positions out there, some companies that are choosing at this time. That doesn't mean tomorrow's going to be different, because every day they are more and more making it mandatory. So there are some positions. Most of them are smaller companies where they feel that they can manage the workforce a little bit better. Some are afraid to lose their current really good employees that have been with them for 20 years who choose not to get vaccinated, because it's either all or none, when you're making these kind of rules for your business. So every day is different, definitely. But to answer the question of the viewer, yes, there are jobs out there. It is going to be harder and harder to find those jobs, I think, in the upcoming months. So it's definitely going to be a lot more, feet on the pavement type of looking, for sure.
Shani, let me ask you, do you see a potential of lawsuits, your discrimination suits
that's we're not there yet. This is such uncharted territory, and there's nothing yet. I mean, and just the fact that if you do allow people to test every week, you have to pay them to get the test, the time it takes them, that's what, 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I would say, as long as you're consistent, as long as employers remain consistent with all of their employees, they're not showing favoritism, they're not showing, picking and choosing and saying, well, you don't have to, okay, but you do.
Yeah.
So if businesses just follow the rules of HR, which, the businesses are great here in Hawaii, then it should be fine. But I do agree with you. This is very uncharted territories. Yeah. And, then we're going to have the issue of those people that, were let go because they didn't take it. Do they file unemployment? Unemployment says they're going to be denied. So it's going to be a trickle effect. But, I think we'll all get through it.
Yeah, we did a webinar based on not so much the why, but how to implement max vaccinations in the workplace or mandate. And there are a lot of questions, and a lot of it related to the legal and compliance issues, because you're right, businesses want to do it right, but it's the how to do it. So there's definitely wide interest in considering a program.
When I think also when the mayor announced his safe access mandate, one of the questions from the press was, what are you going to do legally? And he was like, we'll deal with that later, And so a lot of people don't know exactly what's going to happen. So, but we do have another question from a viewer, and this is actually for you, Nate. What are you hearing about vaccination mandates from Mark and Kailua?
What am I hearing about the mandates?
Mm-hmm. Or just people coming to you, and are they expressing disdain or applause about it, and how it's going to affect them and their making living wages?
Yeah, I haven't been hearing much pushback at all for people regarding the mandates. The people that I'm in contact with have been vaccinated, but definitely the push that we are getting is they want to make sure that they're, earning a wage that's sufficient, right? They don't want to have to return to work and still struggle.
Mm-hmm. And Maureen from Facebook has a comment: raise the minimum wage, kokua. And so, obviously people want to be heard. Yeah. And so I think this is also another question for Nate. What would the ideal conditions be for workers to earn a living wage in Hawaii?
Well, the sort of roadmap has been laid out, fortunately for us, around the nation. A gradual increase to the minimum wage, right? We're at $10.10 now. Slow, maybe $1, maybe a little more per year until we get to a living wage, right? 15 was the target sort of set there by the president nationwide. That would be a strong first step to take in making sure we, slow or continue to grow that until workers full-time can afford to make ends meet. We definitely know we're not going to get there tomorrow. It's not our goal either, but, a slow, gradual rollout to make it so that the economy works for all of us.
Thank you. And Sherry, what can you tell us about Hawaii is Hiring initiative?
Sure. So hawaiiishiring.com is a one-stop website where those who are seeking jobs can go to see what jobs are available, type of jobs, industries by islands, and it also provides training resources, how to interview, apprenticeship and internship information. And what inspired us to do this is because Hawaii was facing a huge unemployment rate, and we went from the lowest to the highest in the nation. And so back in July, we launched this in partnership with the University of Hawaii, as well as American Savings Bank and other partners, and a Workforce Development Council, to make it easy for those seeking jobs so that they don't have to go to this site or that site, but have a one-stop center to make it as seamless as possible. So for those who are seeking opportunities, whether they were dislocated or wanted a different type of job in a different industry, I encourage you to go to hawaiiishiring.com to get more information.
Excellent. Are you guys seeing that folks feel that they're overqualified for the jobs that are available now?
I'm not seeing that. We interview hundreds of people, and I'm not seeing that. I don't think that's really the big issue. I don't think.
And oftentimes you might think, okay, this is my dream job. This is what I want to do. And then how do you go about getting that? How do you find it? Because there are a lot of people out there that are looking for work, and they are also complaining that they're not able to find it.
Which is shocking, because this is the best time. If you are looking for work, this is the best time to be looking. almost every business I talk to, and Sherry can account to this, they're looking for workers. And this is all levels, from construction to warehouse to CFOs to clerical to restaurant to hotel. Everybody's looking for workers. So if this is a great time to be looking, I understand it's scary though, and everyone has a right to their feelings and what they're comfortable with, and getting out there in the public sometimes a little hard right now. But there's also this pool of jobs that's going to be opening up from those people that are leaving their positions because they, have very strong standard of what they believe in the vaccine, and they're choosing not to get vaccinated. So positions that you might not have seen open for years because these people who've been in those positions might be opening up. So, right now it's just a very unique time. But I will say, if you are looking for work, this is a really great opportunity to get out there and get back working in our community and help a lot of businesses for sure.
Definitely. And we've also seen a bit of an exodus too, after COVID, and with the state being locked down, there were a significant amount of people that relocated. And so some businesses were also saying, that was impacting them as well. And so we do have another question, and this is from Austin via Facebook. And if you're not following us at PBS Hawaii on Facebook, please do so. Now, this is for Don. Are you having to pay employees more since you're competing against other businesses? Add to that the cost of inflation and your food costs. How has that affected your business in particular?
I guess the first part, are we having to pay them more? I think probably yes. I think probably in a lot of restaurants are. You've realized you want to keep, and I've always kind of taken that road anyway. You want to keep them. If you got a good one, you want to do whatever you can to keep them. Give them the good benefits, pay them, above scale. So that's part of what I've always done. But it does affect your business because it's the bottom line, and especially when sales start going down. If you got somebody that's been working for you and he's getting 40 hours a week at a certain rate, then all of a sudden you got to tell him, hey, we got to cut back some hours, or wouldn't cut back the pay, but cut back hours. That's not good. Mm-hmm. So but it affects the bottom line. But you just got to fight through it.
How about the rising cost of food?
Oh boy, you can't believe what's going on with that. It's just crazy. I mean, pork's gone up 30%. It's nuts. But that's really going to hurt the bottom line on a lot of people. And you can't just continually pass that on to the consumer, just because our food costs are going up 10 or 15%. We can't raise prices for 10 or 15%. Besides that 10 or 15% that you raise them wouldn't really cover the 10 or 15% that you got to pay more. You should have to probably raise it 40%. And you just can't do it.
And then your regulars will notice too, right?
Sure,
when you increase prices on the menu.
Yeah, you just bite the bullet and, gradually try to sneak it up a little bit, but it's a tricky deal. I've
noticed some restaurants in particular are incentivizing staff, saying we'll give you $1,000, food credit here and there. And so what do you think of that?
That's not the way that I wouldn't do that. You try to do, and my philosophy is you try to do the best you can for your people. And if they're good for you, good to you, do what you can. And if they want to go, but I'm not going to bribe somebody and these incentives that they were doing for people to go out and get vaccinated just drove me nuts. That's not the way I am.
All right. Well, obviously very interesting conversation, and there are lots of people that are either trying to find work or people that are trying to find good workers. And so what kind of tips do you have for businesses that are trying to find good workers?
I think, decide what kind of employee you want and start promoting what that position would look like, what skill sets is necessary, et cetera. And then going back to the hawaiihiring.com website too, pretty much see what kind of jobs are there out there available, and want to make sure the benefits are generous, or that to keep, like Murph said, to ensure that we can not only attract but also retain the employees in the workplace. And when you have this positive work environment, positive benefits, then it makes it more, I guess, it's better for the employee, it's better for the employer, and so just being creative in that way. And probably Danny can add to that, since they do a lot of that kind of responsibilities.
Yeah.
Staffing.
Yeah.
I do think that employers right now, I think the big thing is flexibility. I think they also need to be really well heard that they're an advocate for a safe, healthy workplace, and having that face and that voice for the company that can do that for them, making sure that's the right person. And what that means is right now we just have to be a little bit more flexible with our workforce. So when we're hiring, we can't just go, this is the hole and I need you to fill this, and if you don't fit, then we're going to move on to the next person. Every situation is different. We're all human. We're all in this together. We're all dealing with elderly parents or children or things like that, or COVID. And so if you can allow a little bit of flexibility, but it's all in the communication. It's all the employee communicating with the employer, keeping those lines transparent and open, and just making those people feel, current workforce as well as anyone new coming in, that you're an advocate for them, that this is going to be a safe workplace, and and it's going to be good. I think that it's just that reassurance, and I think that's the key thing right now, for sure.
Do you think in order to keep people feeling safe, that things like mandatory vaccination is a good thing?
It's hit or miss. Every one of my clients is a little different, because we've had a lot of cases where people are vaccinated and they've gotten COVID and they've gotten really sick and they've spread it and they're vaccinated. So you have people on different sides, that have their own opinion. I think when it comes down to is communication and being very transparent and making sure that anyone in your team and on your staff knows they have someone they can go to and they're not embarrassed to go to. They can openly say, I was exposed, this is what's happening, so that you can kind of just stop it in its tracks. That communication and that openness has to be there for that relationship, I think, to be solid. I think that's where it has to be.
And so we have another question coming over via email, and this is for Nate. How can regular local people get involved in making sure that people that support our economy can pay their bills, support their keiki, and not work more than one job?
That's a great question. I love the support. And I think, from our perspective, right, it does start with trying to make sure that we raise wages for everybody. We always advocate for people to call their local legislator, call their representative, call their senator, make sure that they know they want to make Hawaii affordable for everybody, that their voice is being heard. A lot of legislators are inundated with a lot of different issues, and minimum wage might be put on the back burner. So reach out to your representative, make sure that they know that it's a very important thing to them. The unfortunate reality is a lot of these people are working a lot. And might not have the energy at the end of the day to make these calls. They're getting calls from the legislators are getting calls from other groups of people rather than the workers. But that would be my first definite place to start.
Excellent. And you could also, get in touch with neighborhood board people and do that, in terms of like communicating your concerns if you wanted to get in touch with other lawmakers, because oftentimes lawmakers will be a part of neighborhood meetings too, for those that don't know how to reach out. Well, I feel, oftentimes people always will say that the workforce that won't show up for work are millennials or the Gen Zers. Do you think that that's also a part of the difficulty of trying to hire good workers too?
Yeah, possibly, but they've made it easy for people not to work the last couple of years with the extra money that they were giving out, the government and everything. So that's a part of it too. But and the millennial thing, it just seems like, but I think every generation, there's a different, that we were the millennials to our parents at one time, I assume, so I don't know.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And, what do you think is being done to help retain workers that had been laid off or had been furloughed?
I'm just trying to think. We've only had a couple that they took off on their own. I got everybody together and I said, hey, you guys, this is what's going on. If any of you feel uncomfortable coming to work because you've got a sick mother at home or something and you don't want to be exposed, or you've got like I had one guy that took off because he was a heavy diabetic. But they were all back to work and working and just, one big happy family at Murphy's.
And would you say that employers are doing enough to accommodate their employees with dealing with childcare issues and other COVID concerns?
We're seeing, as Danny mentioned, more flexibility because it goes back to retaining workers. We want to work with the employees to ensure that, one, they can earn a living and also manage the health and safety aspect of it. So we're seeing employers being more flexible, especially allowing employees to work from home. I know for some industries that might be more challenging, but yeah, we're seeing this hybrid model as we've been hearing about, that yes, you can work from home so that the childcare aspect can be addressed. And also with the childcare tax credit as well, that the federal government passed as well. That's something that the families can take advantage of as well.
And what has been the response from the federal money that has disappeared on September 4th?
It happened a couple weeks ago, or last week was it? And so, it's too early to tell how that will impact or have an impact on jobs being filled. Because that was one of what Murph said, that was one of the main reasons why some employees were not returning to work, in addition to childcare, in addition to the health and safety aspect, and also wanting to find another job. So, I think we'll see how that impacts the unemployment rate and jobs being filled.
And Shani, as far as, have you had more people reach out saying, I lost some of my unemployment benefits and so now I need to find a job?
No, we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that at all. And we're actually getting into the October, November, December, which are the slower months for anybody looking for work. A lot of people just kind of hold off and they're like, let's just get through the holidays. I don't want to start a new job until the holidays are over. So it's not only, we thought we'd have this, influx of people that are coming to us. We don't see it. We haven't seen it yet. I'm not sure when we'll see it. And then we're hitting our holidays, which a lot of people just, again, hunker down and don't really look to switch a job. So only time will tell on what that looks like.
Yeah. We'll just see a lot more Lihimoy candies and lumpia fundraisers to raise money.
More, that's what they're doing. They're getting creative. All these Instagram influencers now that are making all these money online. I mean, everyone's gotten creative, and so you just, we asked where are the pools of people that we used to have, and they're just kind of scattered. It's not just one thing.
All right, Sherry, another question coming over. What does the Chamber of Commerce think about raising the minimum wage? Will businesses push back, and what are your thoughts?
We've supported the minimum wage increases previously. This past session, we asked that they do not increase the minimum wage just because of the precarious situation businesses were in. But I agree with Nate in terms of increasing the wage and having it incremental. When we address the cost of living issue, minimum wage is just one aspect of it. We need to look at it holistically, from affordable housing to the cost of goods, and childcare. There's so many other factors that are driving up the cost of living. And so if we look at it holistically, then hopefully we can move the needle in addressing the cost of living.
What would you say are the top two issues that businesses are coming to you or seeking help with?
Right now it's day to day, and with these new challenges, new mandates, it's just how do they pivot quickly, because it's a matter of days or weeks sometimes that they have to implement a program, and it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Some big businesses or small businesses, they're challenged already, and how do you manage the resources that are already scarce, and then implementing these type of programs. So that's what we're hearing more and more is how do we manage that, and how do we ensure that they can pivot successfully.
They're probably asking you to interpret, what does this mean? How do I do this?
Right. So we had a lot of questions, and that spurred us to do some webinars in partnership with the City and County of Honolulu, as well as other stakeholders, to answer those questions, because, again, businesses want to do it right. And so having them obtain the information, have questions answered, are critical to ensure the successful implementation of these programs.
And Nate, for you, what are the top two concerns that you're hearing from people?
Yeah, definitely the opportunity to make enough money, right? I mean, tons of people, we all know them, who have been forced to leave the state because they haven't been able to afford, right? They even have probably a decent job here, and they're like, this isn't the life I was envisioning, you know, I have to leave my home. And so, yeah, the cost of living for sure is number one, combined with the wage issue. And then also housing is a huge problem. People are living 3-4 generations together in a house, and being able to find something that's decent enough for their household, that's, you know, not falling apart pretty much either. So yeah, those are the main issues: the wages, and then being able to afford to live here.
And Shani, what kind of tips do you have for people who are trying to get hired and maybe they're just not finding very much success?
It kind of works, you know, my advice to them is also to the actual business. So we have to keep in mind that the workforce that is looking for work might not have been in the job hunt for years, right? They might have just been laid off or looking for career change. And now with everything going digital, it gets a little hands off, and some people get really nervous about that. I think sometimes we do lose applicants when everything is so impersonal. You know, it's online, it's no personal phone calls. You know, now with COVID, you can't walk in and leave an application. So for the applicant side, educate. You know, there's so many tutorials online that can help you with getting your resume put together correctly. That's one of the things that Altruist does in the community is, and this is at the high school level, is getting that resume and making sure what's on there is correct and taking off what shouldn't be on there. Getting your digital platform available, meaning that you've got to be able to upload those to different websites and being comfortable with that. Also doing some different trial runs for Zoom interviews. A lot of businesses right now are doing Zoom interviews instead of in person. So, and we get it. That can be super scary. So many things can go wrong. The chicken, the dog, the baby. There's so many things that can go wrong, and we understand that. And just trying to get comfortable with that. So on the applicant side, just kind of get their house in order, meaning that their resume, dress professionally, get ready for a Zoom interview, do the follow-up phone calls, follow up, make sure that business knows that you're interested. The flip side, businesses do need to be a little bit more flexible. If they're like, you know, everything's online, you can't take phone calls, but they're struggling to find people, maybe they switch it up a little bit. Maybe on Friday they do, you know, come and grab an application, fill it out, mail it to us. So many different options I think that we need to look at.
And you're a staffing company, and so if people are looking for work, they could also potentially reach out to similar staffing companies.
Oh, yes, definitely. There's great staffing firms in Hawaii. You know, part of the two things that we're hearing a lot is our HR division, the Simplicity HR division, that's the clients. You know, they're looking for the COVID resources. How do I navigate? What do I do? But at the same time, they're having people out left and right. So on the staffing side, staffing services are now implementing, like, let me help you out with these people while you try to find people on your own, or while you have, you know, 4 of your people out with COVID for 10 days. So it's this circle that's kind of happening that we're seeing, but a lot of great resources in our community that people can tap into.
Thank you. All right, we are getting lots of questions, and thank you everybody contributing this evening. And we have Jay from Hilo that says, how can the state and county governments better support small businesses in this climate?
I'll take that because I'm from Hilo.
I'm like, Hilo girl.
Yeah. You know, when the state as well as the counties received CARES monies, the business community was involved in help shaping some programs, so the Hawaii Restaurant Card, Hawaii Business Pivot Program. And so it's important to have these kind of opportunities and resources and support for businesses, especially during this fluid situation. And now the second phase was the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act funds. And so the counties were being given these funds. And so hopefully the counties will use a portion of it to provide small business grants, as they did with the CARES monies. But having grants is just one aspect of it. It's the continued challenges that face businesses, and having the counties and state recognize that and finding solutions to address that would be helpful. Mm-hmm. So there's not just one solution. Financial aspect obviously is very important. But finding ways to mitigate the challenges and more mandates just makes it more challenging.
And are you available to those on the neighbor island?
Are we available?
The chamber.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We have membership statewide, and there's also chambers on each island. The Hawaii Island Chamber represents the Hilo constituency, so definitely reach out to them and provide your input too, and ideas as to how state and counties can provide support to the local business community. And of course, we can all do our part by supporting local as well, right?
Definitely. And Sherry, some businesses argue that if the minimum is increased, they will have to lay off workers. What are businesses doing to help raise the minimum wage?
Well, I think it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Some businesses already pay way above minimum wage, and I know Murph does. And so, I think what the challenges are when increasing wages, there's other factors involved. For example, prepaid healthcare. Hawaii is the only state in the nation that has prepaid healthcare. When you factor in what that additional cost is to the minimum wage, it adds another $4 more. And it's also tied to payroll taxes, work comps. So it's not the wage itself, it's all the additional costs tied to increasing the minimum wage. But with that said, businesses are doing everything they can, to the extent possible to increase the wage, provide different types of benefits, providing flexibility, because again, we're all in this precarious situation, and just being flexible is key to ensure that the employees are taken care of and that the businesses can also survive.
Mm-hmm. And we have a question coming over from one of our viewers that says, do you believe our essential workers deserve a living wage?
Well, if that question's for me, then absolutely, yes. Essential workers, any workers. I think we all believe in that, right? I don't think anybody's out there hoping that full-time workers are, impoverished living on the streets. I don't think that's a dream that anybody is hoping for. So absolutely, I think it's something we can do. It's something that's being done in countries across the world. So Hawaii, for example, has a great opportunity with all of the tourism dollars that we have coming in to provide a good lifestyle for everybody.
What is a living wage?
The state study that came out, I think it's almost 2 years ago now, estimates it at about a little over $17 an hour, or about $35,000 for a full year.
Okay. And sorry, Nate, another question for you.
No, happy to.
How do you change the mindset of people to not be so dependent on the stimulus checks and instead formulate pride and work?
I think people are, very, very happy to work for jobs when the opportunity is good, right? I don't think any of us want the opportunity to work a job that keeps them in poverty, and so I definitely don't think the issue is that people are not prideful in what they do. We just need to make sure that the opportunities are there that give them a great livelihood, right?
Thank you. And Shani, I think this is kind of a good question for you. It's from T from IAEA. They say, I've been applying to different places, but they don't want to hire me because I am 70 plus years old. Will businesses hire older employees or just younger ones?
It's against the law to definitely discriminate against the age. So that is definitely something that businesses should not do. Businesses should be hiring and screening and recruiting and interviewing and making the decision based on the job description and the qualifications of the person. So they could be 70, but they could be a nurse their whole life, and now they want to be a forklift operator. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? So you have to be realistic of what your experience is and what you're looking for. Most businesses right now are looking for current work history. It's sort of like when you hire someone who's had 7 years of business school or business, an actual job running a business right out of college versus someone who's still in college and has no work history. Which one are you going to hire? Probably the one with the work history that has stability, that can prove what they've done. So if that 7-year-old's up against someone and they don't have any work history for the last 12 years, it's not so much about their age, it's about their experience level, their skill set, and what they're looking for. So definitely don't give up, because there are some positions out there for you.
And Dawn, you were saying that in the beginning it was a little bit hard, because you had to pivot so much, but that you're staffed now. How did you go about finding those workers? And, like, were you taking out ads or anything like that? And what were you looking for?
Primarily back of the house, but to be honest with you, we've only hired on since the pandemic started one new employee that's filled one full-time position. There's been a couple that have done it that didn't work out for whatever reason, but so we were fortunate there. We didn't have to bring in a whole bunch of new people. We've lost a few. We went from 24 full and part-time employees to 17.
Wow.
But that's, part of it was, we were open at one time 7 nights a week, 5 days a week, and now I'm just 5 days and 5 nights a week because of the burnout especially in the kitchen, of the guys working double shifts, and we couldn't find anybody,
And so you're still doing that, the 5 nights a week or 5 days a week?
5 days and 5 nights a week, yeah.
And that's in order to give them rest?
Well, yeah. It's, it's not just the work thing. This whole thing wears on everybody mentally and at home, and, so it's been hard on a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And we have a question from Stan from Ina Heine, and it's open to anybody. Does the panel have any suggestions on how to get more people vaccinated?
I will say this, I've been pleasantly surprised this last week when more and more businesses were saying, we have this great job opportunity, but you have to be vaccinated. And we would call a lot of our workers like, hey, we have this opportunity, this is the pay, this is it. And they're like, yeah, I'm interested. And we said, well, you do have to be vaccinated. They're like, oh, you know what, I'll just go get it because I wanted to get into that company. So that was their decision to go get vaccinated because it was a great opportunity and it was a company they wanted to work for. And that was the deciding factor. And I just thought, wow, that's great. Let's have more of that. So, I think that more and more businesses are going to make that mandatory, I think. And if the people want those jobs or want to work for that company, that's just what's going to have to happen. I agree. I'm not a believer in incentivizing and giving, a bonus or gifts or something like that for doing it. I think it is a personal choice. I think we all should respect everyone's choice and what they're going to do. But in the job market, it's going to be difficult to find work.
And Sherry, have you encountered that too? Businesses trying to decipher how to, go through the vaccination protocols and that stuff?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we're hearing it every day, right? And again, when I cited the survey, 56% said they would not implement a vaccination program, but there are more and more businesses now considering it just because, one, they want to protect their employees and their customers and clients, and two, part of being this collective effort to address the situation, which is to increase the vaccination rate, so we can get back to a level of normalcy and get back on track and get our economy back on track. So we're hearing more and more, and again, it's not so much the why, now it's the how. And with the addition with the Safe Access Program, as well as the federal mandate, it will increase the vaccination rate. And also looking at the communities as well, which ones have the lowest, and what can we do to support that community and increase the vaccination rate.
We did also have a question for Nate that was talking a little bit more about increasing minimum wage. And it was Kurt, he sent in an email, and he was saying that businesses are going through difficulties by increasing the minimum wage will only reduce job opportunities. Do you believe that's true?
The nice thing is we have studies across the nation and here in Hawaii showing that has not been the case. When we raise the minimum wage gradually, it boosts our economy, boosts demand for jobs. As people have more money, they can spend more. So it does not reduce the number of jobs that we've seen, and so that's a great thing about this as well.
How do you feel about increasing minimum wage, Don?
I'm not opposed to it at all. Like I said, I pay all my people more than the minimum wage, and there's going to be instances where some businesses can't afford it. A small mom and pop operation that's barely getting by, whatever. But you just got to adjust and get through it, but I'm not opposed to increasing minimum wage at all.
And Shani, how big of a factor is pay? Are people saying, I want to make this much?
It is a big factor. I mean, we saw all of our wages across all divisions, clerical, technical, medical, industrial, it increased 7% in the last year. So we have seen an increase across the board in an audit of all of our positions and all of these clients at 7%. Pay is a big thing. I think, where we stand is, the minimum wage was always built to be your first step into the workforce. These are the high school kids. It wasn't meant to have, to be your living wage, to have a house and a husband and a wife and a child. It was really minimum wage jobs as your entry level position. That's, was what it was built for. But in Hawaii, with the job market, more and more people are just trying to survive on that. So it's very difficult. I have to say, probably in the last 5 years, I have not had any clients call me and say they pay minimum wage upon hire. Most of the clients we work with across the board, minimum is 12 and up. I mean, I think it's like with Mr. Murphy, it's you set the standard on just, you want a different caliber of person, you want to invest in that person, you want them to invest in you, and by paying a little bit more, we do see that difference.
Interesting. It's, to me, I was just looking at the numbers from your study in May that you said mirrored in July as well, that 86% of businesses are struggling to find workers. 64% were considering raising their wages and offering incentives, which we see everywhere. You're driving down the street and you see Zippies, saying $1,000, for this and that. And then 73% of employers reported that worker shortage is putting a strain on the existing employees. And so, that's overall taxing on the business, the other employees, and the owners. And so, obviously there isn't going to be an easy way to solve all of this, but what do you think are some of the things that may help alleviate some of these numbers?
I think a lot of it is tied back to the current economic situation, and also the vaccinations tied to the economic recovery as well. So until we've addressed these areas, we're going to continue to find challenges because COVID has brought in a whole different element to the picture, and it's going to be around for a while, pretty sure about that. And I mean, we've seen how Delta just disrupted the entire recovery process. That's a good question, and I think there's no easy solution to it. It's going to be a collective number of solutions to address that.
And Nate, what kind of advice do you give to people that are, seeing the same type of issue?
The economic situation in Hawaii is tough. We all know that, right? I think cost of living has been one of the top issues in Hawaii for decades, right? Clearly, it hasn't been solved today. It's not going to be a short-term issue that we can solve. But, and COVID has exacerbated the problem for sure. I think we need to come together and take a collective plan forward over the next 5, 10, 15 years to make sure this is a sustainable place for all of us.
Have you had any success stories or anything that you can share?
There are, a ton of people who have fortunately been able to find higher paying jobs, but there are a significant larger number of stories of people giving up and moving to the mainland saying, hey, I can't do it anymore. I really try to put my best foot forward, but I have to leave the place that I love. So, I think, the time is well past that we make a concerted effort to end this crisis in which people just are struggling left and right across the board.
Mm-hmm. And Don, it sounds like your employees are pretty happy. You've retained a good amount of them.
Today, maybe.
What is it that you're doing that we can learn from?
You just try to realize that I think the work and the employees are more important than the work sometimes. We really have tried to help a lot of them, and we've helped a lot of them over the years, and they've helped us. They've been fantastic for us. When this whole thing started, they all got together and came to us and said, we'll do whatever you want. You tell us what to do. And we had people that were making very good money as waiters and waitresses, and then there was no inside dining that were doing the takeout, you know. So you just do what you can, and you try to, you know, it's just important that you make their lives good to me, and it comes back.
It sounds like they're a part of the family.
Yeah, yeah. And families always have disputes too, so, but it works out great. We're very happy, we're very, very fortunate.
And Sherry, lastly, what kind of advice do you have to businesses that say they're struggling to find workers?
Gosh, what kind of advice? You know, again, looking more broadly, what we need to do is focus on economic recovery efforts and doing our part in addressing that, and then balancing that with pretty much a collective effort in finding ways to attract them, one, and then finding ways to retain them. And it goes back to what Shani
Thank you
said
so much,
earlier.
Sherry. We're going to run out of time, but we appreciate you. Mahalo to you for joining us tonight, and we thank our guest, President and CEO of Chamber of Commerce Hawaii, Sherry Menor McNamara, and the Director of Living Wage Hawaii, Nate Hicks, owner of Murphy's Bar and Grill, Don Murphy, and via Zoom, Industrial Manager of All Trust Staffing, Shani Bryant. Next week on Insights, we'll take a look at what is being done and what needs to be done about Hawaii's invasive species problem. Please join us then. I'm Olena Hugh. Mahalo for joining me on my first night here at Insights on PBS. Ahui ho.